As a detailer, have you ever had a car come in like this? I'm sure you have, and if you haven't, well, you may later on. What happened to this little BMW? Somebody hand compounded, yeah, not wet sanded, hand compounded this entire hood along with other portions of the vehicle which we're going to hit, and it left all of these marks. It almost looks like it has been wet sanded, I know, but it has not. So we have to fix this. Now this is in for our 2-year ceramic coating, but I had to charge extra for paint correction on these specific areas to get them up to par. So what are we going to use today? The new Rupes system. It's not a new system necessarily because these have been out for a while now. So the DA Coarse and the DA Fine. We're going to be using their wool pad here. So this is their heavy cutting wool pad. And you may notice that I have the 15mm cordless polisher. Batteries are charging and they're pretty much done. So I'm going to take this one out right now and plug it in and start using it as this one is charging. So the cordless system, 18 volt, 5 amp hour, really nice batteries, and let's test it here. Oh, it actually is, it's probably like 90% there because it was still charging. But let me go over some of the features of this cordless polisher and what makes it maybe a little bit different than our usual SPTA polishers. So I only have one of these, so I'm going to be demonstrating with this one, and if wifey wants to use it, she can. Maybe it'll be her special polisher, or she can stick with the SPTAs. It doesn't matter. We have a whole bunch of different cordless polishers. Now, because we're doing a paint enhancement on the rest of the paint and doing more of a correction on these areas, wifey is going to use the Rupes yellow pad with the DA Fine. Just to do a test spot, see if it's sufficient to get out the regular normal swirls that are on the rest of the paint, and I'm going to focus on getting all of this fixed. So as we go around the vehicle, you can see, so it went into the adjacent panel here. The rest of the side is pretty much untouched. And then we go into the back area, so we have this, so we need to get really close to here. Now this has dents in it. This is a 11-year-old vehicle, 10-year-old vehicle?
It's a 2010.
It's a 2010, okay, so it's like 14 years. So we have dings and other imperfections in the paint that we're not going to be able to get out completely, and the owner knows that. So communicate well with your customer when doing jobs like this, because there's a lot of imperfections that are not going to come out. But we're going to gloss it up. The point of this detail is to get out this nasty stuff, to fix the hood, and then to polish it and coat it. So stuff like this, we want to remove 50 to 75% of that. That's our paint enhancement. If the customer wanted to pay for more, they would pay for more. But they're really worried more about this stuff. Yeah, you know what? I forgot. Because we are doing a coating, we're going to be using the NSP polishes. So instead of using the DA Fine on the paint that doesn't have those really bad imperfections, we're going to use either 45 or 150 to go down the side here. So we'll do a test spot and see what the paint is like and see if it's hard or soft, and then adjust from there. So after quite a few passes, heavy cutting with the blue pad, the blue wool pad, and the DA coarse, this is what we're finished with. That's nice. Now I'm not going to go any further than that. Portions of this have been repainted, and I'm not going to go any further because it's old, it has defects. Now you make that judgment call for yourself on your own vehicle with your own customers, but for us, this is as far as we're going. Now, if we grab our light, just to double check, this is before, this is after. That is really nice. The finish of the DA course is pretty awesome. So I'm just gonna go over this with the NSP 45 and a yellow pad, and that's it. Now here, we're dealing with some other weird imperfections, which doesn't show up to the naked eye, but it does on camera. But again, it's been repainted, it's heavily cut, so we have some marring there. So we're going to refine all of that as well. And we also have some big paint chips that you can see right there. So those are huge paint chips that were already put into the paint. So we didn't do that. All right, the hood is now fixed. Not 100% perfect. I would say about 90% there because there's defects and other weird scratches and things that won't come out. But yeah, all of that hand compounding is now gone. Now this was just cut. The DA course finishes very, very nicely. But of course, we're still going to polish it and prep it with the NSP 45. So we're going to use the yellow pad and NSP 45 from Dr. Beasley's. If you're curious about those, check out the card or just comment down below and ask me about them, and I'll send you some videos on how to use those products and what they are. So as wifey is working on the front, I need to hit all of this and fix this. It's pretty bad. So in here is actually a dent. It's an indentation. So I'm gonna try to work around here as much as I can, but I don't know how close I can get here. I'm gonna have to tape around this because I'm gonna be cutting pretty heavily. And this is like Teflon tape that was put on here when this little antenna was screwed in. So let's fix that. Ugh. So I just coated the windshield. I put one layer on, I wait 10 minutes, and I put another layer on. That's just what you do with that particular glass coating. It's so easy to apply and wipe off though, so it's really not a big deal. Usually I like one coat or one layer systems, but for that, it's still very easy to apply. Now I'm going to start coating the paint in just a moment with the Black Rhino coating. That is a 2 to 3 year coating, and it is a type of coating that rainbows instead of sweat. So I'm going to show you the application of that. There's 3 different types of visualizations that I see with coatings when it's time to wipe them off. One is the sweating, which Crystal Serum Light and EXO does. 2 is the rainbowing effect. And then 3 is the kind of melting into the paint and you barely have to wipe off anything. That's more of the DIY coatings and a few other coatings that I've worked with in the past. But the most prominent ones are the sweating ones and the rainbowing ones. But you'll see when we start to apply it what I mean by that. Hopefully we can catch it on this paint. But let's talk about the Rupes cordless polisher, and I have a few thoughts on it. And I'm comparing it to the SPTA because that is what we have been using for the past 4 years. And we love them. They're still going strong. Now, we're on the version 2 SPTAs. I don't even know if you can buy those version 1s anymore, but we started with those, used them for about a year, and then these came out, and we've been running these ever since, and they're awesome. To give you some feedback on how this feels and some of the nice features. Now, it's fancy, right? This is like the Porsche of polishers. It's a small form factor, which I like. It's actually shaped very much like that first version SPTA. It has a trigger lock both for pressing the trigger in and then locking it in. And that's more for safety purposes. So sometimes you are holding it like this and you take the battery out and you press that trigger, or when you put the battery in, you press the trigger by accident and it turns on. So it's just a nice safety feature. You have to press the button in to be able to start it like that. Another thing is the backing plate. Super low profile. I'm not going to put a mod on this like some of the other Rupes polishers. There's no need for it. I was actually able to use it on this hood along the ridge line, and it was fine. Against the edges, I had to use the smaller little 3-inch one because the hood was repainted, panels were repainted, and the hood is sunk in a little bit and doesn't match with the fender. So you can't just kind of go over it. You need something to get really close to that edge. So that's more of the defect on the car, not necessarily for the polisher. If the hood and the fenders matched up perfectly, I would have just gone right over it with this polisher and it wouldn't have been a problem. Now the dial here, super nice big fat dial, easy to turn. And it also lights up on the side here to show the battery indicator basically. So when this light turns on, that's good, it means there's juice. So when this little LED strip starts to blink, it means that the battery is about to go on you. You do have the indicator on here as well for the battery. So about halfway on this. So far, I like it. A few things that I have noticed is when turned all the way up, I don't know if you can hear it, this vibrates. Now, this was supposed to be something that was supposed to be fixed because the battery is tight. It's supposed to be tight in there on purpose to stop it from rattling. However, it still rattles. The vibration on full speed is a lot. You don't necessarily need to run it at full speed, but if you're doing some heavy cutting, I do. At speed 5, yeah, still. Speed 4, not bad. But I still hear that vibration. It is very strong. The motor on this is very, very strong. Now, compared to this, I'm going to turn this all the way up. And noise levels are just, I think, the same. They're just maybe a little bit different. This one's a little bit whinier. This one's a little bit... just a different sound, I guess. Now, as far as weight goes, they feel exactly the same to me. As far as balancing goes, I think they're both perfectly balanced. They feel really good in the hand. I will have to say this is maybe a tad heavier. Now, it has a microfiber pad on it. That's not going to affect the weight at all. There's no rattling of the battery. This has the rattling of the battery. I don't know if it's picking it up on the microphone or not. So that's just one thing I noticed. Workability. I mean, which is better? It's personal choice and budget at this point. This is half the price of this. Now, this does come with the whole kit which this does too. It comes with their own polishers and pads. Are they that trustworthy? I don't know. Rupes pads are amazing. I do love them. Now the backing plate itself, it's not quite universal with other pads I'm finding. The Velcro on it is a little bit different. Now you might be able to find a brand new pad that will stick onto this Velcro, but I have older microfiber pads that won't stick onto this at all. So these microfiber discs from Meguiar's, okay, that one's actually staying on there. Sometimes you have to run it and press. And, okay, that seems to have a good bite. Okay, that's pretty good. I guess one of the other ones I was using wasn't quite working, but it was an older pad. So it really just comes down to personal choice at this point and budget. This is half the price of this thing. So you kind of choose what you want. I can't really say get this or get this. It just depends on what you want. If you're a DIYer and you have money, then buy the top-notch one. Who cares? But if you're on a budget, then get this one. Really, it's not a matter of which is best anymore. There's so many products, there's so many tools. It just comes down to personal choice now, which is kind of nice because you're not bottlenecked into having to get one thing because detailers deem it to be the best and you have to have it or you don't know what you're doing and you can't perform paint corrections and polishing and all of that. That is a lie. That is a myth. It doesn't make sense at all. So don't buy into that. If you want to get this because you have the money, that's your choice. But the SPTA polishers are awesome. They work just as well. In fact, they're equal in my opinion. And really, it's not so much about the polisher. There are plenty of other detailers who are using budget polishers and doing incredible work. So no, it's not about the machine. It is about the detailer. Having said that, it is a good machine. It works. There's just a few little quirks on it, which I'm sure they'll work out later. But overall, it is a nice machine. And I used it to cut the hood and the rear trunk area. And the batteries were not fully 100% charged. And I used maybe like 3 batteries back and forth. This is actually the 3rd time that I've switched out the batteries. But I'm doing some heavy cutting here, spending a lot of time, and I'm doing it on full speed 6, so that is going to chew up some batteries. Now, as far as timing goes and how long the battery lasts, I really can't judge that. It's not about time, it's more about how many panels can it do. That's the way I kind of judge its battery power and its lifespan, because I'm not going to run this machine non-stop to see how long it lasts. It doesn't quite work that way, because if you're not putting a load on it, that'll also mess with the variations of how long the battery is lasting. Because when you put a load on it, there's going to be more torque added and it's going to chew up that battery a little bit more. So it just kind of all depends. So don't go buy that. I don't. The SPTA polishers, I use the Makita OEM batteries, and I still have some of the stock SPTA batteries. Usually for paint enhancements, with wifey and I'm maybe using a total of 4 batteries. So that's 2 each. And usually we're polishing for maybe like an hour to 2 hours, depending on the size of the vehicle and the severity of the defects on the paint. That's maybe 30 minutes per battery if you really want to average it out like that, but it's an unrealistic way of measuring the lifespan of the battery. It doesn't quite make sense. I really don't even worry about that anymore. If you're gonna go cordless, just buy extra batteries. That's the only thing you can really do. All right, time to coat. I'm gonna do one more coat on the glass and then start on the paint. Alexa, continue.